In this short video, I'm talking a little bit about architecture, backend architecture, and I'm comparing WordPress and Drupal from a conceptual perspective. And I'm explaining you or trying to illustrate why I think Drupal is an excellent choice and actually better than WordPress or Joomla, for instance, when it comes to implementing your app on the server side. So in this short tutorial, I'm comparing the conceptually WordPress and Drupal. WordPress similar goes with like Joomla, for instance, or typically many other very user-friendly pieces of software. Conceptually, that's pretty much the same. So here in WordPress, for instance, or Joomla, you have typically have user plugins. Often you have like 2 or 3 types of user plugins. They add functionality to the core, and then on top of that you have sub plugins in a way that work together with the specific user plugin that you have chosen. So if you want to add some features regarding the users, you have to you choose a user plugin, and again there often it's the case that there are 2 or 3 bigger user plugins available, and these plugins, the sub plugins, only work with this specific user plugin that you have selected. So these are the users. Then, for instance, when you have a commerce plugin, then again the same thing. You have sub plugins that work with this commerce plugin, but often, typically, this plugin is not does not talk to does not work with other plugins, and the commerce plugin doesn't talk to the user plugin. Obviously, of course, all those plugins talk and communicate and work with the core, but not with each other. And then you have probably an article plugin, and again you have some sub plugins there or some extensions there that work only with these plugins. And occasionally you have like connecting extensions or plugins that enable the articles and commerce plugin, for instance, to work together with each other. But you see here this silo approach in a way, and this is what many pieces of software look like, or how they work together. The main problem is that these plugins and the sub-plugins don't know about each other. Compare that now to Drupal, where you have, for instance, more generic modules like the field permissions module, the rules, and the views module. Now you can build pretty much the same functionality with Drupal core, the field permissions module, the rules and views. With these 2 modules, you can build pretty much the same functionality here. With these, it's a little more difficult in the beginning, obviously, because here you just have to install the plugin and the extension, whereas here you have to understand how views, how rules, how they work. And this is when you're new, when you start up with that, this can be actually quite a little bit tricky, but there is plenty of tutorials. They are embedded also in this app development guide, in the second part of the app development guide, that show you spots on how you can use rules and views, how to implement, how to get the same feature functionality here that you have here using with rules and views. And so here, this is in a sense the user plugin, this functionality that you get from here, you get from here. And the commerce plugin, you use the same modules, use the same base modules in a way to get these functionality. And the same for if you want to add additional features to your article, you don't have to install a different module that doesn't know about other modules, or that most likely don't work together with other modules or plugins. But here you use more generic modules to achieve that. So from all of that, it follows that Drupal is more like a framework than a typical CMS. And in a nutshell, so you get pretty much the same functionality, but in very different ways. And with WordPress, you certainly have a lot of plugins available. Some of them are free, others are not free. But the costs are not even, well, cost is an issue actually, because often you need probably like 2 to 3, 4, 5 sometimes plugins, extensions, and often the really useful features you would have to pay for them. And so the cost is a factor, whereas Drupal, all the modules are free of charge, and they can be freely downloaded. But apart from the costs, it's more the missing integration that's troublesome here. And if these modules, if these connecting modules in a way, or connecting plugins are not there, so you have two choices, three choices. Either you you accept that you don't get this, that you don't have this feature. This is often not a good idea. Secondly, you develop this missing plugin or this feature yourself. This is also, if you're not a hardcore developer, this is also not an option. Or thirdly, you pay for that. And this is often this custom development of modules, extensions, or plugins. It's actually quite expensive, depending on the complexity. And here, once you've figured out how these things work with these basic generic modules, you can essentially you can configure module functionality using such generic tools like ctools, rules, and views. And from all of that, it follows that it's much more integrated and also highly flexible. This is one of the reasons why Drupal, I think, is an excellent choice for a backend, because flexibility and innovation, they go hand in hand. And typically, when you want to create an app, it should be innovative, and it's hopefully innovative. It's not there, and a big part of that, or quite an important element in implementing this innovation and this requires flexibility. And even though Drupal is not as user-friendly as WordPress, I hope these tutorials that are embedded in this guide and that are out there on the vast internet, they give you a better idea how and actually enable you to figure out how Drupal, how views, how rules, how these modules work. And over time, I'm pretty sure when you watch those tutorials, you figure out how these things work, and you will see how powerful those few modules are. So I hope this tutorial was useful, and thanks for watching.